Okay, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today we're going to talk about technology and real estate, two things I'm highly, highly passionate about. And I come with a very unique perspective, having grown up in the industry. I actually literally grew up in the industry. I had that family, that real estate family, and every day after school, most kids would go to their, football practice or their best friend's house. I actually went to the office, and I would help my mom with anything that she'd let me. Literally, I think I started writing offers at about age 8. So it's been a while, and what's interesting is that the industry has changed so much during that period of time. Over the last 24 years, this industry has had some significant changes. And so one of the things I bring is a unique perspective, because I love technology and I'm a fan of technology and I'm tech intuitive, and yet I remember the days when we had this. Who knows what that is? Do you?
Yes.
It looks like a phone book, doesn't it? No, this is an MLS book. And back in the day, we had an MLS book, and it was printed in my MLS once a month. We had a smaller market, so it was only once a month. Some markets, you have your book printed twice a month. But the reality is, if you had a listing coming up and you missed the deadline to get in the book, your listing was unknown for an entire month. It really was. There was no other way to get the information out. So we used to get belly to belly with agents at the Board of Realtors on Tuesday mornings, and we would pitch our upcoming listings or listings that had missed the book, because no one would have known about it unless they accidentally drove by the sign. And that wasn't that long ago, really, you guys. In fact, guess the year that we went from the book to technology. Anyone know?
2001.
2001,
92.
92, 93, what do you guys think? It was 1995. 1995, and what happened was Realtor.com was born. Now, Realtor.com is not what it is today. Realtor.com at that point was an agent-to-agent platform. So if I had a new listing, Patty, you could go on and check out the new listing. You could also track days on market, market trends, and the things that were going on in the business. So it was a really needed evolution from this little book. Now, the funny thing is, back in the day, I was really popular with our agents because I would actually take the time to duplicate the book. So agents loved me because I would have a couple copies. And yet, if they had someone coming into the office to talk about real estate, they would literally reserve a conference room and the book. And they get at a table and they go through the pages of the black and white book. There was one photo, real grainy, with a little bit of information. And again, that wasn't that long ago. That was 1995. So when we got a platform where we could go on the computer and find out the new listing of the day, can you imagine what that did for us? It was awesome. It was huge. The reality, though, was the consumer was pressuring us because they wanted that information. They knew we went from the book to the computer. So as realtors, we folded. We only had the Realtor.com platform as an agent-to-agent platform for 1 year, and then we folded and we gave the data to the consumer and made Realtor.com forward-facing. It was November 26, 1996. Now, hindsight being 2020, do you think we'd do it again? No? Why not? We gave all of our data away. So as Gary Keller says, you gave it all away. We folded as an organization and gave it to them and made Realtor.com forward-facing. And since then, look at how much has changed. How many other websites have popped up with that data? So hindsight being 2020, we all agree, right? No, we would not do it again? Well, you are. You're doing it right now. And you guys don't even realize it. And the reason is we rely on different portals to run our business. So many of you have a top producer account or have invested in Zillow zip code leads or use .loop. Who here uses at least one of these platforms? Nearly all of you. Exactly. You have to, because how are you going to run your business, right? And so when you think about it, the natural progression of things is that we needed a database to keep track of our people, and we needed a database to keep track of our leads and our pipelines. And so we bought these services to support us in business. We call these bolt-on technology. So if you watch any of Gary's videos about what's going on in the industry, he refers to bolt-on tech. This is it. It's you bought it to bolt it onto your business to run the machine. So let's be honest, nearly all realtors use some sort of bolt-on tech, don't they? And the reality is we rely on it for functionality. The problem is that these companies are either in competition with us today or are positioning or owned by a company we're in competition today. So since 1995, quite a bit has changed, hasn't it? We're now in competition. So top producer, who here has ever had a top producer account? I have, 10 years. Guess who it's owned by? Who owns top producer, you guys? Realtor.com. Who uses .loop? We all do. Who owns .loop? Zillow. So when you have a buyer lead come in through your website and into your top producer account, and they're active searching at properties and saving searches, who has access to that? Your competitor. So know that we need to wake up, because we still are giving all of our data away. And do you really want to give your data to a competitor? I gotta confess, many of you know what this is.
Yeah. Listing power tools.
Listing power tools. Didn't it seem like a great idea?
Yeah.
Listing power tools for like $40 a month. You could, every time you got a listing, you'd have the pizza box delivered to your home with all this beautiful marketing ready to go. It was the deal of a lifetime, right? Almost too good to be true. In fact, there was even lead capture built in, so that if a consumer texts this phone number, you'd get their phone number and you'd catch the lead. But who owned listing power tools? This guy, Robert Palmer. This guy, right? This guy's pretty smart, isn't he? So he got us for over a year to put sign riders on our listings, to hand out marketing collateral with lead capture, thinking we were benefiting, right? Because we were. You may have picked up a lead. Your seller was happy with the marketing because it was beautiful, right? And what happened is he pivoted on us. So now in my neighborhood, look at this, you guys, 0%. He's going to list all the homes in my neighborhood for 0%. He's got lots of great marketing collateral. I get one every day. He's spending a lot of money in Gulf Harbor's neighborhood. So what he did for an entire year, let's just assume everyone in this audience had a listing powers tool sign writer. He collected all those buyer leads for his mortgage brokerage while you were benefiting by getting those buyer leads. And then he made the pivot, and he went from mortgage lender to mortgage lender and realtor. Powerful, isn't it? That's exactly what Zillow's doing right now. So Zillow went from selling zip code leads to now saying you don't have to pay for the leads, but when you get a closing, you're gonna be paid a referral fee, which kind of sounds great, doesn't it? Because why have to spend thousands or hundreds of dollars every month hoping to get leads when you can be handed a lead that's going to result in a closing for nothing, but yet to be paid a referral fee? And yet what they're pivoting is that you have to use their platform, their app, their tools, so that the consumer, from the moment they start the search to the close, are actually working with who? Zillow. So you're eked out of the deal, and you're just part of the deal, but you're the person that just keys the door. You're not the person that negotiates and represents. You're not the fiduciary in the business any longer. You're just a participant. So do you see how dangerous that is? Because let's just say a year from now, Zillow says, instead of paying you a decent referral fee, I'm just going to pay you 50 bucks. What's stopping them from doing that?
Nothing.
Nothing, when we've handed over the entire process to them, haven't we? So you have to be aware of who has your data. So today, I was coaching right before this. I had an agent bounce into my office, super excited, because they have a lender friend that's willing to do a bunch of marketing for them, and all the leads are going to go to the lender friend, and they will pre-qualify and hand the leads over to them as long as they can market their listings. Well, who's to say that lender friend isn't helping other realtors as well, or just themselves? So I want you to be aware. I want you to wake up and be aware of who has your data right now. Who has your data? Now, this is not meant to terrify you. I'm not here to terrify you. There's good news, but I'm here to wake you up, because the reality is most brokerages have their head in the sand. They're not even talking about this. We're the only brokerage really talking about this right now, because they're not positioned to do anything about it. So Gary Keller, when he's taking a stand for us, he's not just taking a stand for Keller Williams, he's taking a stand for RE/MAX, Berkshire Hathaway, Coldwell Banker, all realtors that don't want to be eliminated by technology. Because the reality is, these tech companies believe that you're not necessary. Now, we could argue that point all day long and say, of course we're necessary. And yet, if we don't do anything about the current state of the industry and we just kind of go along with this, could we become dinosaurs? Absolutely. Absolutely. So the different models, which I'll dive into after this TED Talk, the different models are different between Amazon and Quicken Loan and RP Funding and Bungalow and all Purple Brick and all the OfferPad, all the different brokerages that are seeming to pop up that are focused on this initiative, all have different value propositions, but the bottom line is the same. They believe that technology will trump you. That if I want to buy a house, I don't need you. So think about this for a minute. Domino's Pizza. If you order a Domino's Pizza, you can even see if it's in the oven, if it's being cut, if it's in the car, if it's on the way. You can see if it's a block from your house, if it's in your driveway. You can track that entire process. And since Domino's has added that, their business has been revived. It's kind of like Uber. Have you guys ever, who here has used Uber? I'm like looking on my app. I wait till they're like 2 steps from my driveway before I walk out of the house, because I know. Isn't that convenient? So technology's betting that the consumer cares so much about the process being controlled and monitored by them, from search to close and all the other steps in between, that if Zillow creates an app that will give them search, will give them the different milestones and communicate with them along the way to give them updates on where things are at and what's happening next, that the consumer will actually choose Zillow over you. Now, let's bring up some obvious things. Like, what happens when the inspection report comes back and you had an overzealous inspector that created a lot more dings on the house than really necessary? Or what happens when the appraisal comes back and the comps were totally inappropriate? Well, that's where you guys come in and save the day, don't you? So you're not going to become extinct in real estate because of technology. And I want you to hear this. Listen to this loud and clear. This is the message of the day. You are not going to be eliminated as a realtor because of technology. However, if you do not adapt to the way real estate transactions should be done according to the consumer, you will. So the consumer is demanding the new way, just like Domino's pizza delivery and Uber and all the other things you've seen change. Hasn't there been a lot of change? So if you do not adapt to the way they want, you will. So when I say that, I again don't mean to terrify you, and yet I want to wake you up, because some of you are ignored Facebook ads and have ignored some of the other technologies that have clearly worked and are still working in the old school way, and the consumer just won't allow it anymore. So it's a race right now to give the consumer the experience they want. So if you look at Zillow's app versus Keller Williams, that's the race that's going on right now. And again, most brokerages aren't even talking like this. They're not even bringing this up to their agents because they have no plan. And frankly, Gary Keller has been working on this for years. He saw it coming, and it's happening. So now Amazon is a real estate brokerage. Quicken Loans, which then formed Rocket Mortgage, now has Rocket Homes. And this guy here went from a lender to a realtor. So if you're not aware that this is happening, I intend to wake you up. Wake you up so that you can position yourself so that you don't become obsolete with this change. Now, I was recently at a high-level meeting, a regional meeting, where they were talking about what NAR is predicting. And the National Association of Realtors believes that approximately a third of the realtors will leave the industry by April of 2020. And it's because a little bit about the shift, but it's more about this. It's more about this. So it's time to adjust how you're doing your business and adapt to what we've got so that you don't become obsolete. The technology platform that I'm going to show you takes care of all this. And yet, if you're not involved or aware of this, I want to make sure that you are today. The company I'm actually most concerned about is Quicken Loan, because they're the largest lender nationally, and they're smart and they move quickly. They had Quicken Loan, and then they formed Rocket Mortgage, which is basically an online way to be pre-approved without having to talk to a human. And there's a lot of consumers that would rather not talk to a human about their credit score or their financial situation. They'd rather just plug in some numbers to see if they can get a loan than have that conversation. So they're clever and quick to move, and frankly, they're getting the buyer leads often before we are, aren't they? Because many people will check to see where they're at before they even bother shopping for a home, so they're able to. So think about this. I want you to all think about your pipeline right now of all the buyers that you're working with that might buy in 2019. And one of the questions I have for you is, how many of them have either gone to Quicken Loans or Rocket Mortgage to get pre-approved? Do you know? Because you should be concerned if they did. Because if they did, they're going to be offered a different mortgage rate if they use their in-house realtors. True. So when you think about it, you need to worry about things that you've never worried about before. And so in response to that, Gary Keller started Keller Mortgage. Now, Keller Mortgage was never intended to replace your great lenders and the great relationships and partners you have. It's meant to compete with someone that's being told that, no, you can't use your realtor that you like and trust and know. You've got to use our in-house employee as your realtor in order to get this loan. And so when you look at Keller Mortgage, it's specifically been built to compete for that circumstance. So be aware, and if you're not aware, become aware. So why did Gary Keller invest $1 billion out of his own pocket to put all this together? To protect us. Exactly. Protect us, protect our industry. And so these are the main things he's going after. First of all, they did some research. On average, somewhere between $750 million and $1 billion agents like you spend on bolt-on technology every year just to keep your business running. That's a lot of money, isn't it? So you guys can all look at and think about even this last year. Look at your P&L and say, where did I have to spend money so that my business was functional? And the bigger your business, the more you're probably spending. So the bolt-on technology that controls your lead and data is also competing against you. So he wanted you to be able to cut off companies like Top Producer that are not your partner, they're your competitor. And he wanted to make it free of charge for you so that you have no expense. So that's pretty awesome, isn't it? Free of charge. So all this money that they've invested, this platform that they've built, you do not have to spend a penny on. It's included in your cap. And the reason why is because he feels that it's important to position us so that you're in a position that you can unplug from Top Producer, .loop, or any other platform that you may be on that isn't working and to support you. So he's created a data pledge that not only has he created this environment, this platform for you to work from, but he will never steal or use your data. And if you ever left the company, it goes with you. It's a data pledge. It's a commitment to you to know that we've got your back. So the platform is to protect and secure your data so that you're not accidentally giving it away to your competitor. It's allowing you to unplug from those organizations, platforms, or companies that aren't really supporting you. It's going to save you money. It's going to provide you that ultimate customer service experience, which ultimately isn't that the bottom line. And if you think about it, we've never been in a moment of change in our industry as great as when we left the MLS book to go on to the Realtor.com. So when we look back at that, that seemed like such a huge change. This change is tenfold of that. It truly is. So we've never had more change going on. And the core point of this is not like Bungalow where they say, oh, you don't need a realtor. Your realtor doesn't need to help you. This platform is meant to keep you the center of the transaction, the center of the universe, the center as the fiduciary that the consumer is expecting. And best yet, it's free of charge. So not only will it help you cut expenses, it'll help you grow your business. So again, technology will not eliminate you. And yet, if you don't adapt to the search and consumer experience that the consumer looks, wants, and is looking for, you will. And that is why I'm going to challenge you all to dive in to the platform. Everyone in this room will have complete access to every bell and whistle that the platform has in full functionality by family reunion, which is mid-February. And many of you have access to it now and are beta testing it. So if you aren't even aware if you have it, after this talk, I will be showing you a few things so that you guys can plug in. And yet I want you to understand why we're doing this. It's not for fun. We're not here to just make everything change for fun. It's to survive as an industry through this change based off the demand of the consumer. And if you look at other industries that didn't change, like Blockbuster, what happened to Blockbuster? Became Netflix, right? And we don't want to be our Blockbuster, do we? So fortunately, we are all partnered with Gary Keller so that we don't become obsolete, and know that if you don't make these changes, you likely will. The companies that aren't making change are soon going to find out because the industry has already made that change. We're already seeing it in MLS numbers with brokerages closing or rolling in, and even in our own office today, we have an 11-person brokerage moving in tomorrow because they can't compete with this. They can't build it. And for the brokerages that don't have any platform, it's too late to get started. We got started over 3 years ago. And there's no way that they can catch up fast enough because April 2020 is where we're going to have a big change, a big look at what agents are left in the industry, and it would have already happened. So here's the good news, because there's always, always, always good news. Real estate is still a relationship-based business. And we know they need us during this transaction, don't they? I think you guys can just think of a couple transactions you've all had recently and think of how many times you had to step in to make that a successful close. So you will not be eliminated by this technology change. But again, if you don't adapt to the way that the consumer wants the experience to go, they're going to go to the agent or app that will. So I encourage you, adapt and double down on your relationships, because real estate is still a relationship-based business.
Okay.